Hello, Internet. Pure Tide here. Coming at you for day 4 of Everyday This Week videos. Well, here we are, and I don't even have coffee. Look, Ma, no coffee. Just raw dogging reality straight now. Ugh. And I'd like to let you know that today's educational video is a part of Pure Tide's battle strategies. And Pure Tide's battle strategies is PBS. And PBS is brought to you by viewers like you. So, let's talk about Kroott. Everybody loves Kroott. They're fluffy and fantastic space chickens of doom. But they don't see a lot of play on the high-level tables. Back in 8th edition, I was using them fairly regularly, at least the carnivores, until they didn't mesh so well with a Farsight Enclave detachment. And we can get to that in a moment. But Kroott are generally seen, for those not in the know, as low tier. And I'll grant you that everything in this edition is a little overpriced. But it works. It works for bringing a lot of bodies. And when you can multiply something small many, many, many times, you get effectiveness. You remember what I was saying on the last video about applying a multiplier over a wide portion of your army? Yeah. If a Kroott has a 6-up armor save, and you can give that Kroott a bonus from cover, so it's a 5-up, you've just doubled his life expectancy. If you can give him a 6-up feel no pain, you've just doubled his life expectancy. There's a plateau of diminishing returns there, but it's still quite solid, because you're still probably going to fail that 5-up armor save, and then you give it a 6-up feel no pain from, say, an Ethereal's Sense of Stone. That's right. Ethereals work on Kroott. And Ethereals ignore chapter tactics. That's why they work on Kroott. So you can have an Ethereal in one detachment work on all of your Kroott from any detachment. If you want an Ethereal that's a Sakia for great morale, or you want to do Anshi for the fluffiness, go for it. Who cares? And if you need to slot in a detachment that's got some specific benefit to the rest of your army, and you need Kroott, well, there you go. You've got your HQ choice, the Ethereal, and the Kroott, so you've got a patrol. Easily. And then whatever else you need to make your army work, your support units. I used to do this with the 8 in 8th edition with Firesight Marksman. I'd want Sakia Sept Firesight Marksman for that sweet, juicy reroll. Because 88, not 87, not 78, 88, thank you Vegeta, % hit chance. It was good. So, what do? You make Kroott your stand-in. Now, Kroott have a lot of weaknesses. Individually, they are weak. But they have a handful of great benefits. They are crazy cheap. And their multipliers work pretty much across the board. If you want to bring Enva in a Ttau detachment, and you've got Kroott, all of a sudden your Kroott's tremendous weakness to morale checks just doesn't really exist anymore. And the opportunity to spawn 2 ethereal powers. So all of your Kroott now, as long as they stood still, reroll 1s to hit, and they've got that 6-up feel no pain. Or maybe they can reroll their advanced roll. Kroott carnivores fill up that important troop slot. The issue is they're more expensive than they maybe should be, but still they're cheap enough to bring enough bodies to clog the enemy's guns. If you're facing an army that has a limited amount of volume of fire, Kroott are your go-to. And you may not know what you're doing beforehand, but that's part of thinking it through.
Think, Mark!
If you've got a limited number of drones, and we've all got a limited number of drones in 9th edition, well, the gun that kills drones the most efficiently is also the gun that kills Kroott the most efficiently. So, clog your enemy's guns with cheap, expendable units. They're not important. Their purpose is to soak up shots so that those drones survive, so that those suits survive. And all of a sudden, your Kroott are, adjacently anyway, supporting your Riptide, while also being highly mobile, able to yeet themselves across the board and claim objectives. A Kroott carnivore and a Kroott shaper interact really well, because that shaper lets those Kroott, all Kroott, re-roll wound rolls of 1. That's not in your shooting phase, in your melee phase. That's just period to the end. So your shooting phase, your melee phase, Overwatch, your opponent's melee phase, all of it, lots and lots of juicy re-rolling 1s. And, well, honestly, when you can apply those re-rolls in a wide enough margin, which you've certainly got the bodies to do, you can really get somewhere. Kroott are fantastic, again, for mobility, because those carnivores start on the field and then get to redeploy up to 7 inches away. What I used to do was make a little conga line. I'd have my ethereal, and just within range of his morale, I'd have 1 Kroott redeployed, and then make a chain so that all the Kroott were benefiting, but I had my deep strike denial, my redeploy buffer, my general battlefield space, because it's important to control board space. Hypothetically, somebody runs across the board to you, and they're able to get in melee. Now, Kroott are going to die quickly, but if those Kroott are close enough that the consolidation of those Kroott lets your enemy consolidate from the Kroott he just killed into something actually important, you didn't put a speed bump, you just helped the enemy. So you space them out a little bit. And then they can run, and man, they're fast at 7 inches base. And then there's the Kroott Hounds. Kroott Hounds move 12 inches in a turn. That is fast. And re-rolling the charge? Great. Honestly, they're really great at getting in somewhere and clogging something up. And that's all a Kroott is meant to do, is clog things up. So hey, do it the cheap way. Do it by the numbers. Kroott can be solid. they're not going to be overpowered. But our power curve for this game is kind of rough, and all of our codex is beneath the power curve at the time of shooting this video. So I can't complain that one thing is below the power curve, everything is. It's what tactically you can do with that Kroott, that tactical flexibility of controlling space and clogging bodies and preventing your enemy from just wasting all of your drones. That really makes a difference. And ethereals make your Kroott last longer. Cover makes your Kroott last longer. And when you're bringing a lot of Kroott, you can really get some advantage out of that Shaper re-rolling wounds, if you're bringing enough to really do that damage. But plan out your game beforehand. Plan out your game before you ever get to the table. Know the purpose of your Kroott. Some games, you may not have them for the purpose of dealing damage. Oftentimes, no. They're just there to soak space on the table and soak shots. But when you've got volume of fire, if that's what you're missing, then they can do that for you. And that reroll 1 increases that volume of fire by increasing the wound successfulness. Reconsider Kroott. They can be effective on their own. But we as an army form a gestalt, everything together for the greater good of the whole. The one hitch right now with Kroott is Farsight Enclaves has their marker light ability, where within 12 inches they count as having an additional marker light. And anything that is not specifically Farsight Enclaves within that detachment ruins it for the entire detachment. Nobody gets that extra point of marker light. So if you throw Kroott in a Farsight Enclaves detachment, you've weakened the rest of the Farsight Enclaves. Don't do that. You want to be going towards the strength of the whole. That's why Kroott are great for a side detachment. Maybe you're bringing a Farsight Enclaves Riptide or Yavara and lots of drones with your Farsight Enclaves. Well, you know what works great for drones? Leadership. And ethereals grant that leadership. And ethereals grant leadership to drones and Kroott. So maybe bring a separate detachment of Kroott with an ethereal and whatever other support things you did. Maybe you want those drones to work with your Riptide, but you really need a backline unit because your Riptide's going to go forward. So you do a Ttau Sept detachment with Hammerheads and a Longstrike and Enva. And then you've got all those Kroott to give bubble wrap to the tanks or the Riptide or the drones. Whatever works in that situation. The Kroott are so flexible that they can work with anything. You've got this, Internet. I believe in you. Alright. Roll the outro.
Fly me to the moon, let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring